we've got the one and only Glenn Stretch Smith. He knows a little something about the game of football. And, of course, we've got our own Mike Leslie. And guys, let's jump into it because we got a lot of, I was going to say interesting Super Bowl to talk about, but I don't want to lie to the people because we don't do that. We are going to talk about the Super Bowl and all its faults and failings. And let's jump right in because I do think, Coach, that when you think about the job that Mike Macdonald did in this game, I mean, it was incredibly interesting how not only did he come up with the right answers for the Patriots, but in that first half and through the third quarter, the Patriots really had no answer and they had no other way to go. How good was that coaching job by Mike Macdonald in your estimation?
I mean, it was an incredible coaching job, and it was a lot better than the guy that set this show up. I'm tired of hearing about when the Cowboys were in it lies. It's always, well, when the Cowboys were in it. 11 times since the Cowboys were in it. Hey, take that out of it. Talk about the damn game and quit worrying about all that. Okay, you drew me off sides. I'm sorry, Joe. I mean, Mike Macdonald, incredible job. What I liked is that he continued to dial up the blitzes. I mean, he wasn't afraid to blitz. It was almost like situationally, he knew what was going on in the football game. He was into what was going on in the football game. And I say that because a lot of times on first down, you saw him crowding on the line of scrimmage. They were daring Drake May to throw the football. So he was dialed into what he was doing, calling this football game.
Mike, what was your biggest takeaway, bro?
I mean, obviously the defensive performance from Seattle was spectacular. We expected for their defense to be really, really strong in this football game, and it lived up to every bit of that. We all sat here a week ago giving our predictions for this game, and there's a reason why all of us picked Seattle. There's a reason why all of us expected the Seahawks to win this football game, and it started with what they can do on the defensive side of the ball. There were obviously expectations relative to Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith-Njigba and their offense being able to do, frankly, more than what we saw from them in this football game, but they certainly did enough to get the win, and the defense was the central storyline of the entire night. It was, as I saw many people sharing the meme around over the course of the night, you tuned in for the Super Bowl and a Thursday night football game kind of broke out. It was that kind of clunker of a football game. But if you're a fan of defense and if you're a fan of the Seattle Seahawks, you're a very happy fan right now because it was everything that you wanted the game to be.
Mike, I didn't want to stop you because, listen, your points were fantastic and right on point. I thought I love the line about the Thursday night game.
Yeah.
However, not all of us picked the Seahawks to win.
One person on the panel decided to save everybody else's skin by going out on a limb and picking the Patriots, okay? I just wanted to make sure that we were not on the wrong end of a superstitious Seattle undertaking, because at least to a certain point, when it was 12-0 and all of a sudden, or excuse me, I think it was 19-0 when the Patriots offense started clicking, and it was two big plays and they're in, and all of a sudden you're sitting there thinking, are the Patriots really about to do what they've done in almost every Super Bowl, which is just, you know, bait and switch everybody to think the game is over? No, it turned out it wasn't the case.
And someone in the room said, no, that's never going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Yes.
There's about to be a turnover in the next drive, which, of course, there was.
Well, but we were also kind of wondering whether Sam Darnold was going to throw the pick six. He was kind of dangling out there for the entirety of the game. I do want to give some credit to the Patriots defense. Christian Gonzalez played fantastic. They're the ones that kept this thing within striking distance throughout the majority of the contest. And if Drake May is anywhere close to healthy, as we're hearing, he might have had shoulder problems going into the game, specifically day of. Like, if he was anywhere close to the kind of player he was at least for the first 5 weeks of this season, as we know he was an MVP candidate, maybe this game gets a little bit closer and a little more dicey down the tail end. But bottom line is the Seahawks were the best team top to bottom, and it showed throughout the entire game, Joe.
Well, and I would say this in terms of, you know, what they were able to do with that one drive when they had the 24-yard pass to Mac Hollins, then the 35-yard touchdown pass to Mac Hollins. The game was essentially over before then. I feel like that was literally after the Seahawks exhaled, right? And they exhaled for the first time in the game because they had suffocated their opponent. And they finally went, okay, we could take a breather. And they did. Listen, Drake May and company, credit for doing what you did, but that was never going to really swing that game. It was just too lopsided, and that Seahawks defense was just too good. The front four and the fact that they just kept bringing in so many different waves of defenders on the front four, and then when you add to that the fact that, as Coach was saying, they were able to scheme up the blitzes that were hitting home time after time after time again, it was almost it worked in two different ways, because it was almost as if it was unfair for Drake May, but then on the other end of things, you still had to have some accountability for that Patriots coaching staff because they didn't have the right answers to give him, quick screens. Again, perhaps he was injured. Maybe that's why we didn't see more of a controlled run game, a called run game from Drake May to try and get that defense off of him, to find some ways to give him some space to operate. They just didn't try much of anything, and it was really kind of a head scratcher for the better part of 3 quarters. So, Coach, when you look in terms of what you can copy from what we saw, because as you know, the NFL is a copycat league. What do you think other teams will copy? What do you think the Cowboys will copy from what they saw on this particular night from that Mike McDonald defense?
Well, I think they've already done it with, hiring a defensive coordinator that's going to go, kind of away from what is a standard 4-3 look. They're going to go to more of a 3-down lineman, kind of those 2 overhangs like you talked about in Sports Special. But I also think that the Cowboys are really going to look at becoming more aggressive blitzing and calling blitzes. I mean, this Christian Parker, he spent some time with Vance Joseph. I mean, he's spent some time with Vic Fangio. So he's not afraid, it doesn't look like initially, to be scared to call it, because you know what, you have to have the confidence in guys to call it, and we'll see. He's never called the defense before, but I do think that when you look at his background and you look at what he wants to do, it fits in with what both of these teams did defensively, which is try to cover your 5 interior on certain downs and then bring the blitzes and cause your back to have to go one way or the other.
The other thing that this team did really well, and this is something that Cowboy defenders in particular will have to become better at, is they zoned up Drake May for huge portions of that first half. And that zone was sound, and that caused Drake May fits. Mike, what's your take on that? If this new Cowboys defense comes in with a lot of those zone schemes, what responsibility do you think that puts on Cowboys players?
Well, obviously a lot of the personnel is going to have to change with this defense. I think the guys that they have at the cornerback position may stick from 2025 into 2026. I think where they need to make changes, where they need to, frankly, overturn a lot of this roster is up the spine. I think, the defensive tackle position, they're probably set, obviously, with Quinnen Williams, with what they have with Kenny Clark, if they don't trade him, with what they have with Oso Odigizua. But at the linebacker position and at the safety positions, they need to turn that probably completely over, with the exception of DeMarvion Overshown. That is where they need to get better very, very quickly, because that's how Christian Parker and by extension Vic Fangio, who were kind of prognosticating anyway that he's going to build a lot of what he does off of is his experience with Fangio. That's how those defenses have been built through the last several years for Fangio. That's where they need to be better, is up the middle of the football field. And if they can make improvements to that part of their defense, I think it can then, by extension, make the rest of the defense better and make some of the pieces that they already have look better than they did in 2025, and have that lift all boats, if you will, with the defense. I don't think they're that far off. Scheme obviously needs to change dramatically, and we're going to see that with the advent of Christian Parker as their defensive coordinator. But other than that, I don't think that they're that far off personnel-wise. Those couple of spots, and then obviously probably a pass rusher would help in this draft as well. But they make a couple of tweaks there, they may be in a pretty good spot.
All right, we still got a lot left to break down in the Super Bowl, talking local angles, players that played in it, including DeMarcus Lawrence, who had one of the best I told you so's in recent memory, specifically to this organization. Stay with us on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show.
Mic drop.
I didn't get quite a chance to respond to Coach's little shot at me toward the early part of the first block, so I just want to say this. You want to jump on my case, but the Cowboys are the ones that haven't been there in 30 years. That's all I'm going to say. But the guy that was
there. You think
there,
I don't know I was there?
I
don't need a lesson.
I'm just saying.
What it's a tutorial now. This show's turned into a tutorial.
Just
when the
add,
last time we were there.
We'll just add the check mark, another year in the box.
I can read a calendar. I got it. Let's move on to something going in direction.
Well, the other day, do you need me to show you my Super Bowl ring?
Yeah, let's get on to something going in direction.
That's fine. That's fine. You know who does get to check off that they are a Super Bowl champion is DeMarcus Lawrence. Joe, your thoughts on the fact that he is now a Super Bowl champion and gets to kind of lord it over the culture of the Cowboys?
I started rooting for Tank Lawrence, especially in 2018 when the Cowboys put the franchise tag on him. And Tank simply said, that's fine. I'll take the tag. Didn't make a big deal about it. Didn't hang his head about it. But he did say, when I ball out, you will pay me because I won't do this again. He balled out. They paid him. I respected it. He became one of the leaders in that room. And I was actually here working the day that he came out with that shot in the offseason saying that while he lives here and this is home, he had to leave because he doesn't think they'll ever win the Super Bowl here now. And it turned into something incredibly quickly, and I happened to be following social media when Micah Parsons shot back with the clown emoji, called it clownish, and they went back and forth and back and forth. Well, let me tell you something. Micah said it was clownish. Who's laughing now? Huh? It's Tank Lawrence with the final laugh, the mic drop, and not only did he call his shot, it only took 1 year for him to pull it off. I mean, listen, when it comes to talking your talk, as the kids say, that's how you do it.
So, Mike, and I'm sure you and I were on the same page on this, when you heard that from Lawrence in Seattle, a part of you sitting there thinking, it's the Seahawks. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? And they've had great defenses in the past, no joke, but like,
Sure.
we don't think of them in that upper echelon team. How much did this swing kind of change your perspective of him and everything that's transpired here?
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is look at the back and forth that Dez Bryant publicized between the two of them, the text exchange between Dez and Tank Lawrence, where Dez was saying to him, dude, what are you talking about? How are you going to go win a Super Bowl in Seattle, of all places? Like, your defense will be fine, I'm sure, but Sam Darnold and Tank Lawrence, to his credit, said, hey, Sam Darnold's going to go ball out, and he did. And everybody said, oh, Seattle doesn't have any weapons. Well, we didn't know enough yet in the spring what Jackson Smith-Njigba would blossom into in the NFL. We had seen him do it at Rockwall. We had seen him do it at Ohio State. It should have been easier for all of us to say it was going to happen in Seattle, and it sure as heck did this season. And Tank Lawrence knew what he was doing, hitching his wagon to the Seattle Seahawks. And to say he hitched his wagon isn't fair either, because he was an impact player for them defensively all through this season. He made impact today in this game, and he was impactful throughout this season for this defense. He was part of why that Seattle defense was so good this season, was because of the addition of Tank Lawrence to their unit. They were a fantastic football team all through this season, and as the year went along, it became clearer and clearer just how good they were. It's an all-time call your shot moment for him to be able to say he's going to go to Seattle and win a Super Bowl, and here he stands less than a year later having done exactly that.
And to button up the Dez and Tank back and forth, Dez owes him a Rolex now.
Yes, he does.
That's how that ended up. Are you kidding me? On top of that, you get a Rolex? Coach, what'd you think about Tank Lawrence, the way he did it, the way he talked about it, and the way he pulled it off?
I mean, I love what he did. I mean, he did, you know, set his expectations out there, and then he went and talked with his helmet and his shoulder pads. He got on the right team. He got with a GM and John Schneider, who wasn't afraid to make a mid-year trade for Shaheed. I mean, he lined himself with the right people, and you know what? To me, there's something to be said for a guy who just said, you know what, I'm going to go do the talking with my helmet and shoulder pads. After he said what he said, then he went and put it on the field and did it. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for him.
Yeah, no doubt about that. That's the Tank Lawrence that we came to know with the way he played as a Cowboy. We're running out of time here, but before we go on, just a few mentions of the North Texas, high school kids. And I'm going to defer to you, Mike, because that's your expertise from what you saw quickly, if you could run us through just what you saw from those local players.
Yeah, listen, Jackson Smith-Njigba was the guy that I think we all expected to go off in this game, and because of a variety of factors, obviously the Patriots directed all of their defensive attention to JSN to make sure that he didn't go crazy, and obviously he had the concussion concerns as well, but still made an impact. Byron Murphy, the kid out of DeSoto, 2 sacks, a fumble recovery. There's kids from all over DFW that had their fingers all over this game, and the ones that are wearing a Seahawk jersey now will have a ring.